Hey everyone, welcome back to the garage. We're back on blue. Finally, I know, it's been a long time. I've wanted to get back on this a lot sooner than I have. We'll see how much progress we can make today, over the next few days actually. I've kind of got to a standpoint on some of the other projects. You can't quite see the MG, but it's sitting over there. So, thought it'd be a good time to do a little work on the blue truck. So, as you probably saw from that little short, if you haven't seen that, go back and watch that. I kind of bring everybody up to speed on kind of where we're at here. What we're going to be doing today, and you can probably see that, maybe. Yeah, right over there. So we're working the alternator bracket. I've started getting it all realigned. Some of y'all remember when it was running in one of the previous videos, it squeaked quite a bit. I found out it was the tensioner and bracketry for the water pump, or excuse me, coming off of the air conditioning compressor going to the water pump. Right in that area is where it was squeaking. So I realized it was probably an alignment issue, and I wasn't the most happy with the way that bracketry worked out anyway. It was kind of ugly and it didn't really fit as well as I was hoping it would. So as you can see here, if I bring you over, maybe you can't see too well, it's kind of buried down in there. But where we are, I came up with a new bracket for that. We're going to be working on getting the mounting bosses put in. I already have two of them. I have one hole drilled. I have one of them welded in. The other one is sitting in there loose, and now it's just kind of a case of fitting everything sort of good-ish into place enough that it will work. I don't know how critical it's going to be. Honestly, we're going to give this a whirl. We're going to try it. And if it squeaks again, well, I'll figure out something else. I don't know. I'm kind of at a little bit of a loss for how perfect to get all this because, well, quite frankly, I don't do stuff like this all the time. And it's a little trickier than you might think. It's something that seems incredibly simple to get this lined up. But, yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it because you're trying to align it in like 6 different ways. And the best thing that I've been trying to do is using the belt, aligning it off of the 2 pulleys that are off the top here and trying to get the best alignment coming up over it as I can. I have not quite found I can get it exactly perfect, but I've got it pretty close to where I'm like, I'm not thinking it'll squeak, but I don't know, it might. And quite frankly, if it does, then we'll just play it by ear from there. But I'm also going to try to fix, I think, part of my issue, which was the tensioner design. The original tensioner, if you go back and watch some of my previous videos, you can see it. The belt would come up over the pulley, down to the tensioner, and then to the water pump. Problem is there, as I realized, as the pulley as it's running, you will get periods, especially whenever the AC clutch engages. In theory, there's a potential for that belt, as it pulls, the tensioner can't hold it because of where it's at in the whole routing. I don't know if that's actually the issue or not. We're going to see. Like I said, part of it was also I'm just not the most happy with the way it was working out anyway. So I think what we're just going to do, we're going to try this, is hooking it, instead of going off of in between the AC and the water pump pulleys and kind of the belt doing one of these around a tensioner, we're going to have it come up, go around a tensioner, and then around the AC condenser. Or the AC compressor, excuse me. And that's kind of what, here, if I can bring you around here, we'll kind of show you what we're working with here. Basically, the original tensioner sat kind of down in here somewhere, and the belt was pushed down to go around that tensioner. So what we're going to do now is run the tensioner, the belt will run straight across the top, and the tensioner will go kind of like this, is the goal. So we're going to see how that works. You can kind of, well, it's kind of hidden underneath it, but you can kind of see the new bracket that I've made down in there. Sorry, the lighting's not the best, but there's the new bracket. And that holds this a lot better. The other thing is that in the future, should I need to remake adjustments, it puts this in a better place to do so. And as you can kind of tell, this is the battle we're trying to have, is getting it all aligned, getting it twisted right and turned right. You see, I've got to make a few adjustments yet, and I've got to kind of play with spinning it. I've got this bolt now done, so I've got to just figure out rotationally where this wants to sit to line up the best with this. And quite frankly, we're just going to play it by ear and see how it goes. Yeah, This is the stuff that I kind of struggle with doing it off of a motor like this, because the hard part with a motor set up like this, if you're dealing with like a small block or something, I don't have the truck handy to show you, but there's a flat plane that comes off of your pulleys, or that comes off of your head surface, that all of your pulley accessory drives bolt to. So as long as you're square with those, you'll be okay. This, as you can probably tell, doesn't really have many square places to bolt to, so it's a little trickier, and that's kind of where V-belts honestly come into play better. And that's honestly the worst case. If I cannot get this set up to work correctly, I will go back to dual V-belts and just run a V-belt, run a single, probably a single pulley up to my to my water pump, and then over to the alternator, and then run a pulley off of the alternator and that pulley over to the AC. If I cannot get this set up to work, and I will just switch all the pulleys around to V-belt. I really don't want to do that because I like this setup the way it's going, and I really want to try to keep it that way as best as I can. So we're going to try to keep this the way that it is, with just modifying this and getting it all lined. I don't see any reason it shouldn't work. There's other guys that have done this similarly, and they all have worked. So we're going to really try to make this happen and see if we can make some progress on it. But yeah, that's kind of the first area we're working at. I have some injection pump issues, like I said, that I was talking about in the previous video. So I'm not quite going to get into that right now. I got to do a little more research, figure out a little more about how all this works, and figure out what I want to do to... I'm basically trying to avoid pulling the injection pump off, because I have suspicions that the pump itself is not the problem, and that it's actually in the governor or the aneroid setup. And so I would really like to try to fix that and save some money and not have to send that off and get it rebuilt, because, you know, quite frankly, I'm trying to keep the budget in this a little more reasonable. You know, being out of college now and everything, it's a little more important to keep things in a little tighter budget control. So we're trying to make this as budget friendly as much as we can, you know, budget friendly as you know, this can be. But that's kind of also, we're at a point now on some other projects where this kind of makes sense to give it a little bit of a, see if I can make some headway on this. I do have some other priorities that I need to get this truck ready for. That's another thing. So we have now some more goals to get this ready. And so today is, it's early April. It's first week of April, or second week of April, I think. Whatever. I can't keep track of days anymore. This truck needs to be road ready-ish, as loosely defined, by middle of July. So do the math. I don't have that much time if I've got to do some major injection pump work, major driveline work in addition, you know. So if I've got to get some of this stuff rolling, I'm trying to get this taken care of as quick as I can. So I'm going to keep going on this, and I will bring you back once I get this put together and I'm sort of happy with it. We'll see. I'll probably get this bolt put in first. This piece over here is actually not welded in yet. I left this one loose depending on where this was going to have to lay to weld this in. So we're going to weld this in first, or weld this in after we get all this done. That way this is bolted in. We do also have a bolt back here. You can kind of see it's not in a very good place. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to use that bolt hole or not. I'm kind of also wondering if I might have to make a new water neck for this, which is not a huge deal anyway, because as you can see, we do have to do a step down, because we are 1 3/4 here, and we're 2 inch right here. So if I do have to step this down, not the end of the world. It will, honestly, as you can kind of see, it's a big bulky casting here, and we can probably pare this down quite a bit to get it a little more clearancy. I mean, you can see we can probably pretty much come straight up from this, because we're not using this plug. This steam line could probably get redone, and we could also eliminate this 90 and actually make a fitting with a 90 that comes across too. So we could remake this to make that work too, and that's honestly something I might think about doing in the future. We'll see. One other big thing that I have parts on order, and hopefully it'll be coming in later, probably tomorrow. This water neck here, some of y'all may remember in a previous video, it was a little crude, it was a little rough, but it was a good test. And it works, it's functional, but it does leak a little bit. One of those things, it's, you know, not really that surprising. So we are going to make a new one of those as well. I've got a block of aluminum, And we are going to essentially attempt to replicate the original here, this idea, because this seems to work really well. Except what we're just going to do is we're going to modify it to essentially use this same style. We don't need either of these two ports on the side like this, or on, I guess on the front as it were. We need a port coming off of the side about here to go over to our overflow tank. Also, this water neck, or the lower radiator hose hookup here, is way too big. This is 3 inches. We need one that is 1 3/4 inches to go into the radiator. So we're going to I'm going to machine a piece of billet aluminum into this correct shape. Got the correct bolt holes and everything through it, and then we'll make some custom ports that come out of it, and then I will machine it such that we can take, and my buddy Conrad is going to weld in a aluminum nipple that is the correct size, and it will essentially work as one big casting like this, just with the correct size outlet and with the correct size threaded holes. And also it will slim this big chunk down to something a little more manageable and have a direct fitment without any need for adapters or anything. Because this actually, believe it or not, is almost the exact right shape when it's bolted up to the engine, where the water neck, or excuse me, where this, I guess this is a water neck, but where it comes out and goes into the radiator, this is almost exactly the right angle and size, other than it's just big. So we're going to downsize it a little bit, make this all work though, and get that made here. So that'll be probably in a, I don't know if I'll put it in this video or not. I'll probably upload this one first just to give you guys a little content, because I know I've been getting a lot of comments wondering when we're getting the blue truck back in action and doing a little work on it. So I'll probably get to that first, and then we'll post another video about this and the creation of it when I get on that. So I'm going to go back to the AC compressor, and I'll bring it back here in a bit. Well, I've run into a few snags. I have got the bracket. Maybe you can see it in there. I have got 2 bolts in it, and I need to take it now to work and weld it up the rest of the way. I'm not entirely sure if things are quite going like I'm hoping they will. I might still have an alignment issue. Quite frankly, we're just I think gonna have to make it, actually get it to the point where we can put a belt on it, actually, and a tensioner and all that, and see if it works. It kind of doesn't seem like it is too big of an issue, but then again, the other one didn't seem like it was that big of an issue either. So I don't know. But anywho, we are. I'm gonna probably put this in the same video now. We're gonna move on to the water deck. So I actually got in today my other piece of material I needed to recreate this, and it is currently right here. So I got this snazzy drill press off Marketplace. Didn't work for the most part, but I got it all freed up. It moves now, and this is our stock. So you can see, maybe you can or not, that's the dimensions of this piece of stock. This is just a piece of 6061 aluminum, just regular billet aluminum. And you can kind of see I've traced out the shape of the base of this on here. Now, if you notice, we are not making this whole thing out of a billet. All we're doing is machining essentially that, basically what's above my hand, out of a piece of billet aluminum. And then, in turn, what we're going to do, because we have to essentially make enough room for the water neck to come through, you can kind of see the shape we have to sort of recreate. It doesn't have to fully recreate this, so we're going to probably make it do with a little bit different setup. Basically, we're going to start to hog out a hole through here, and then where this hole, where this piece is cast into it, where the actual hose would hook to, that, because this is going to effectively be about like that, that is going to be machined on this flat right here. Which, the other thing is that this gives us an ability to change the angle. We can put it more out like this, or put it back the way they did it. So if you can kind of see here, sorry for the lighting by the way, basically this is the angle that they made it at. And so I tried to turn this in such a way that we can actually turn this water neck a little bit, and figure out, before I machine this face, what the optimum angle for this water neck is going to be before we actually weld it up. And then what we'll do is I'll figure out whatever that face I want, machine it, and then we will bore through, and the water neck, the actual nipple that's going to get welded in here, will be welded to that surface. But first thing we got to do is get this plate roughed out. And the first thing I'm going to do is drill the mounting holes for the plate itself. Because then what we can do is use those to bolt the plate itself down to the table of the mill and actually use it to hog the material out, because that is the one area, if you look on this, where we've got a little bit of meat. Other than that, we're going to be machining almost everything else in this, so there's really not a good place to bolt down a piece of billet. Now, we do have some room, though, on this side here, and I kind of positioned it on this stock on purpose, is that I've got room to clamp here and here to machine out in here if I can't bolt through here, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to bolt through to here or not. So I wanted to put the holes in first. That way it also makes it really easy with nice flat edges still to do this. So we're going to try this first, get it, see if I can bolt it with that. If not, I'll use just the edges here and bolt it down to then start machining this out. Because the way we're going to do it is we're actually going to, if you look at it, it's going like this. So we're actually going to machine effectively this part, which is actually the bottom. So we'll be machining from this side. You can kind of see my table's a little dirty, but we'll be actually machining in here. So that's the other thing that allows me to do, is that those holes, when I get them drilled in, will give me a reference of what this pattern looks like from the other side, because we have to keep in mind this is not symmetrical entirely. It's close, but it's not exactly symmetrical, so we have to make sure we do this on the right side to get the correct output, I guess, of what the part is we're looking for. So by drilling those holes, we will gain a reference of what goes where, and then I can kind of start to trace out what I want, and then we'll start small and then work our way out. That way we minimize the risk of damaging and going too far. But yeah, sorry for the lighting here, it's not very good, but that's what we're going to be doing here. I'm getting, you see I got the first pilot hole drilled. I'm going to drill 2 more, get those all drilled in, and then I'm going to step up to the actual through hole size, get those punched in, and then probably the next time you see me, we will be on a mill starting to bore this out. So we'll bring you back. Ooh, that's right, no light. I will bring you back once we get that drilled out, and you'll see kind of where we're at from there. All right, well, we now have holes in the block. It's all drilled and ready to go. So now what we're going to be doing is I'm going to take and do a little tracing here, so I'll bring you in. I'm going to try, I can do this a couple ways. I'm going to try to see if I can get this gasket to peel off here. We can use the trick where we'll basically take, if this gasket will come off whole, we can lay it down on this part, and then I can clean it off, paint over this, peel the gasket off, and then we will be left with a perfect outline of where this gasket was, and that's going to be the part we're going to machine out of this pocket in here. So that's going to be what we're going to be trying to trace out, so we can start machining that. If that doesn't work, like I said, that's the reason I wanted to have these holes put in place, is now that I have these, I can reference the location of this hole to the edges of the casting in here versus this hole versus all that. So now that I have all of these reference points, I can trace it up if I cannot get it to actually come off with this actual gasket, which, you know, I don't know, it might work, it might not. So, but at least we've got that we can use to reference it out, and it probably doesn't have to be super exact. I mean, this isn't, you know, space shuttle or anything, so we'll get it close enough, and it will be probably just fine for what we're doing. And you notice I'm on the back side here, because the side that has the markings on it that we used to initially make the trace, this is going to be the front face, which is going to be this side, which obviously is not what you want to drill the whole big pocket into, because, well, that's not the side the pocket's in. And this is not a symmetric pattern. So we have to be very careful making sure we do this on the right side as to not scrap this part. So I'm going to probably label this too, to make sure I know which is which now that we have started to drill into it. And I'll go ahead and I'll get that marked out. For now, that is going to probably conclude this video. I think there's enough for this, and I want to get this video out to you guys because I've had all of you all wanting to know what's going on with the blue truck. So this is kind of a little bit of an update. We're making some progress. Next video, I'm going to start machining on that. I'll bring you back in when I have some more of that done. I don't know how long that's going to take me to get some progress on that. We'll see. Kind of depends on how everything goes. We're also going to be working on the AC compressor bracket. I got to get that welded up and do a little more work to that. We'll see if it's going to work or not. I got to get a tensioner and maybe something else I might be forgetting. Anyway, we'll see if we can get that put back together and maybe see if it's going to squeak worse than it did originally, which is probably what will happen, and then I'll figure something else out. But we'll let you know whatever we do figure out, and then we'll be getting this taken care of too. So that'll be in the next video. Hopefully I'll get on that pretty quick. Like I said, I want to get this out to you guys though, so this is going to do it for me. And yeah, be sure stay on the lookout for that next one. I appreciate you guys commenting and saying you want to see more of this, and all that kind of helps me keep going and know you guys do have interest in this and that you do want to see more of it. I tend to, when I get off of work, just kind of come out and mess around in the garage a little bit and don't really bother filming it because, you know, who knows if people want to watch it. So I appreciate y'all telling me you want to see this. Encourages me to keep filming these, and, you know, yeah, maybe you learn something. Maybe you just enjoy watching me ramble. I don't know. But anyway, whatever you're here for, I appreciate it. So stay tuned for the next video. We'll see you later. Have a good night. Oh, hold it. 1 second. I know the video was done. I want to make an addendum quick. Show you. I was not able to get that gasket off of there. And I want to show you all a trick. Old timer taught me this. And it's, I've done this tracing stuff. It is a good way. You can use it for a ton of stuff. It also can be used to cut gaskets out. You can also do this with a hammer to actually cut gaskets. If y'all want to see me cut gaskets with a ball peen hammer on a piece of cast iron, let me know. I'll see you the next time I come across that. I'll see if I can make a video of that, because that was another cool trick I was done, and I don't have something right now I can do it on to show you. But if you all are interested in me making a video of that, I'm sure there's 100 other videos on YouTube of it. But if you want me to show you, I can show you. But trick we're doing right now is this. We're doing what's called a rubbing. Basically, the trick is you take, this is just a piece of an old invoice, I think, and you get it kind of centered where you want it. And then all I have is just some dirt and grease and grime. Actually, it might be some ash on my thumb. Just something that's going to make a decent line, but it's not super greasy. And then all you're going to do is take, and the trick is also to get the paper held in a few places. So like I also might take, see if I can scrounge up another bolt here. Take another, you want to try to make sure all your bolt holes, if you can get bolts in them, it'll help hold the paper in place. And so now you see we've got bolts in there, and now all we're going to do is just take and run our finger along the edges, and the dirt that's on my finger, it works like a pencil. If you ever did this in, if you had an art class or something, I know in my elementary school we did something like this with a pencil, and you see all I'm doing is just kind of going around, and just that little bit of dirt and ash that's on my thumb, kind of just go around, and there you go. You have now created a perfect template of the part you were just trying to copy. That is an old school trick right there. Works a treat though. And now what we can do, I can cut that out, lay that over my part here. Boom, lay it over it like that. And then I can use that to paint the area that I'll use probably my paint pen or something. Paint the area that's in that, and I can use that as a tracer and not have to worry about just trying to make measurements and freehand it. If you did actually want to, let's say you were making a gasket out of this. This works on a gasket too, to use with gasket paper. You do want to use this with a gasket, and you do want to try and actually cut the gasket. All you do is where you make all those lines like that, you can then come along and cut this out with scissors and maybe an X-Acto knife. That's a clean way to do it. However, if you have a good sharp casting, you can take a hammer and hit very lightly along that edge, and the casting will cut the gasket paper right along those edges, and it works pretty good for what it is. Not perfect, but it's a cool little trick. So I figured I'd show you all that, and this is probably one of the most helpful things I've learned for doing stuff like this. So wanted to pass that on to you guys. As I had said before, I appreciate y'all watching. Like I said, be sure to stay tuned for next set of videos on this. Hopefully they'll be coming a little more soon now that the weather's getting nice. makes it a little easier. So hopefully I'll appreciate watching this. And as always, I will see you on the next one. Later.